Well, let's start with what are ETFs or exchange traded products. And the typical way of describing it is to say, well, they're products that are listed on the stock exchange, so they're like shares. But instead of buying a single company when you buy an ETF, what you're buying is a whole portfolio of shares. So that's why they call them exchange traded products or exchange traded funds, because you're buying an entire portfolio of shares, not just a single company. Now, what sort of portfolios are you buying? And the one issue that a lot of people don't perhaps fully understand about ETFs is that they track an index. And what an index is, it's a measurement of performance in the stock market. So the stock market in South Africa, for instance, we have the top 40 index. In America, you'd have the MSCI 600 index or the Dow Jones index. What your ETF does, it replicates that index. So let's say you have an ETF that's tracking the top 40 index. It will hold all 40 of those shares that make up that top 40 index and exactly the weightings that the JSE or wherever the index calculator tells them to hold them in terms of that weighting. So they replicate the index. So what we hear on the news is the index went up today 0.5%, or the all-share index went down 0.5%. Your ETF goes up and down by exactly that amount. So what you're doing is you're buying the market. You're buying the performance of the market. And that's actually not a bad investment, because there's a lot of collective wisdom in the market. An index is actually the average performance of the stock market. And the average performance is a collective wisdom of all the people who are buying and selling that stock market. And it's very difficult to beat that. In fact, in South Africa, 80% and often 90% of all active managers can't beat an index, because the South African market tends to be very narrow and focused into a selected number of shares. Only 50 shares are really tradable in South Africa, and you can buy those 50 shares in an index. So what ETFs do, they give you access to a market, and they give you access to a way of performing at the same level as the stock market.